Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Friday with Friends. Today's friend, coming from Albany, New York, Subhen Bose. Hi, Subhen.
Hello.
Good to see you. We met a little while ago, and I'm glad that you've agreed to come on this little chat that we do. We try to broaden our scope to all corners of the world, and we're glad to add New York to this. So welcome, a really warm welcome to you. So I like to go through different themes on this Friday with Friends, and in the past we've done balance, the art of balance and taking up different subjects. And now a new theme is emerging, and that's practical spirituality, which I find for myself is very beneficial, because normally we find that people's spiritual practice is a private matter and something that they feel good at and it helps them while they're there, but it seems to be separate from the lives that they lead. And so there's a line crossed between that. So the title given to today's, well, let me tell you a little bit about Subhen first before I do that. Subhen's an engineer with an MBA. He works for the government, I guess New York State, I believe. And he's been practicing Rajayoga about 9 years. And I liked reading your bio because it says you enjoy creative ways of integrating spirituality into the workplace, which is absolutely perfect for the title today called Practical Spirituality, Bringing Enthusiasm into the Workplace. So first question, Subhen. When you hear the word or the term practical spirituality, what comes up in your mind?
First of all, Craig, thank you very much for this opportunity, and very, very happy to be here with all of you. So when we hear the word spirituality, so many things come into mind, and we are all seekers. But then when we came into this knowledge, we got a very clear understanding of what spirituality is. We got a clear understanding who we are. We got a clear understanding who do we belong to, clear understanding of where we come from and where we are going. And from that perspective, what am I supposed to do now? So when we have all these tools or knowledge available to us, if we don't apply it, what's the fun? So
Yes.
That is how I look at it. Just like we have applied physics, applied chemistry, that is science, which is applied. So here you have spirituality, which is also a science, which needs to be applied. So that's how I look at practical spirituality when we look at our own life through the lens of spirituality and see how it manifests.
So let's explore together a little bit this aspect of making applied spirituality. I like the term because I do like everything applied, and that it's more than just a belief. For other people that they don't want to have you have to believe to do something. They want to see that it makes a difference in your life, and this is the real key to what attracts me and what attracted me to this type of a life is how it brings a net result in people's lives. So today, let's just focus on the workplace. Mm-hmm. Here's a fact that so many corporations and organizations are spending a lot of time and resources on trying to teach their employees and members of the organization how to work together in a more harmonious way, which I guess brings more balance, how it improves the relationships, and the bottom line, meaning it brings more profitability into the company. Mm-hmm. How do you approach that, and how does your spiritual practice translate into your work day without you evangelizing to people of what to believe?
Very beautiful topic, and the subject is so vast, and I like to narrow down the scope in certain areas so that we can dig deep. So the first thing is, when I'm going to the workplace, how does the workplace look like? when I look through the lens of the spiritual knowledge. Now, one thing is, everything changes the moment I get into the awareness of my true self. Everything changes in the sense I now know who I am, and I also know who others are, and I also know how to interact with different situations. So application of spiritual knowledge and post, when you apply spiritual knowledge, the same scene will appear different. No, I will be responding in a different way. If not, then I'm not applying. So that is a little bit of a test. So now coming into workplace, what is the definition of workplace? Now, I would think workplace is a place where you go and you get a paycheck. That's a way I would have defined workplace before I came into this knowledge. But now, workplace is a much broader term. It's, as we know, as spiritual beings, this whole task of ours is a workplace. The place where I live is my workplace. The place where I go to do my work in terms of earning a living is also a workplace. So for the time being, I will keep the definition to the place where I go to earn a living for this body as the workplace. So in that workplace, how do I bring spirituality is a big component of the workplace is communication. How do we communicate? In the corporate world, communication is a big word, no? And they spend so much money in terms of what communication should be. And communication mostly in the corporate world is around words, around how we speak or how we make, presentations. In the world of spirituality, that communication is of a much more higher level. For instance, communication, even at the physical level, one is at the level of words, your speech, what you talk. Right now we are doing that communication. Then there is the level of your facial expressions, face. You communicate through your face, which in contemporary language will be body language. And third is through vibes, your feelings. Research says that 80 to 90% of effective communication is non-verbal. You agree?
Oh, I don't doubt that. It's my experience as well.
So now, but most of the practice in the physical world is on words, presentation, on those aspects. I'm not judging anything, but I see it.
Yes.
So spirituality takes the communication to that level of feelings. In other words, spirituality is interested in the quality of the thoughts that we generate, because the thoughts translate into feelings, and it is the feelings which people really are impacted, touched. There are so many occasions where people might not remember the details of a meeting or an interaction, but they will hold on to how they felt.
Absolutely.
And those feelings are manifested through your facial and bodily expressions. Of course, in today's remote settings, where we have the option of turning off the video, it can be a little more challenging because the body language component is taken off. But that's a place where spirituality can be even more powerful, because
interesting. That's a really good, very good point.
You're communicating through your thoughts. So that is one aspect of spiritual component being brought in the means of communication in the workplace.
So, I can see right away that what's important is how you make other people feel. And I just had heard something earlier today about leadership. And actually, it's all leadership, whether you're in a lead position or anytime you're in communication with people, that the sign of a good leader is mostly how people feel in your presence. Either they're happy that you're there, or they're happy that you're leaving. and so that's really the essence of the feelings. And so something you brought up before, as you know the self, it's related to this term that I wanted to also touch upon, is self-respect.
Mhm.
And as you start, I would imagine that your experience is like mine, that as you've gone more and more into the study, that your self-respect has increased as you get to know more about yourself and let go. What's your experience, even in a nonverbal way, or not even an intentional way? Are there any differences that you see in yourself, in your relation to people in the workplace, before you have this knowledge of self and after you have this knowledge of self?
Yeah, so the thing is this, when I'll take a very simple example of your regular meetings that you have. So when I'm going for my meetings, I would have gone earlier with the awareness of what's the agenda of the meeting, what are the different things that have happened in the past, and what are the things I need to do. So that will be, it's not that that is not there,
Right.
but that is what was in the past. But now, when we come into spiritual knowledge, you go beyond in the sense that you really have the choice to exercise that you are going into this meeting where you are going to meet other souls who are really beautiful beings of light, my brothers. Now, you're not going to go and tell them, but what we can do is, we have a choice to do a little meditation for a minute or 2 minutes. Brahma Baba used to do that before he used to go for a meeting. It is actually very beautiful practice for any meeting, even meeting family members. To stabilize myself in that awareness of the true self as a point of light, being with higher potential, godlike potential, a being who is naturally loving, what happens, and not only me, but also others whom I'm going to meet. And when you create that awareness, you're already vibrating at a higher level. And as if you have created an atmosphere where you are inviting them. And so you are getting into an atmosphere in a meeting where you have already created an harmonious environment. It's very interesting that with our thoughts, we can create environments. All of us had this example in our lives when we had met a granddad or a grandmom, and we felt very, very calming, very accepting. As a little child, I would have instantly known by seeing the eyes of my mom whether I have done a mischief. So I will either burst into tears or I will run for safety. So if that is an expression from the eyes, the opposite can also happen, no? In terms of love. And we have seen that in our dadis. So in our practice, we have this aspect of drishti, no? So here, and what is drishti? When I am in the awareness of my own higher nature, child of God, connected with God, I'm allowing God's energy to come in, and I'm looking at you with that vision. So small practice, but these things have to be experienced though. So this is where it becomes fun. And that is what I was explaining in terms of creating these small experiments. And nobody needs to know. That's the beauty. And
yes.
then you come into that meeting and then check your feelings and see how your feelings are as opposed to the feelings pre-gyan.
Yes.
And if there is a difference, that means there has been some application, and then your experimentation has now taken some deeper roots, and now probably you will try to scale things up.
So in either case, you get to observe yourself, what is working well. And if it doesn't work so well, then you realize we're in an area that you might want to pay more attention to. Do you find that people, because as I was listening to you talk, that it sounds very ideal, and that if someone's like that, I would tend to find them non-threatening, and I would also trust them. Do you find that this is the case for you, that people feel easy in your presence or trust you even without you having an agenda of trying to gain their trust?
Well, I will not be able to attribute it like directly to the particular behavior, but overall they will be able to observe that there is a certain amount of stability, because the situations in the meeting rooms, they will keep changing.
Yes.
If we can hold on to that stability, we are making a difference in us, and our difference in us is going to make a difference in them. But what is it? The dynamics is like this. When I am in that state of stability, and when I come into words, the speech, the act of speaking is also connected. This sense organ is connected to the state of the soul. So when the soul is in that state of peace, when the stage is that strong, then, as you said, in the voice, there will be peace. There will not be any threatening. There will not be any aggression. There will not be anxiety. It will be different. But if the state of the soul is in that state of little bit of fear, anxiety, that will reflect in the voice too. In the voice, in the tone. And that is how
the vibe. See, it's back to the vibe that you talked about, and that's important, because your workmates they may not want to hear anything about soul or anything like that, but they will appreciate stability. And so here we've discovered a practical application that it gives you the stability to maintain being the same person, because if, like you said, you're this eternal being. And of course, the meetings are all different. The situations are all different. So they're very transitory.
Yes.
So I often see that dichotomy, that how could something that's temporary affect something that's permanent? Because so I lose my self-respect in that moment. So I just reapply. So it's really good to see that you've already discovered different ways to have it work for you. I have the environment, the typical environment in any type of business or any type of organization, and that's something that's most people think is good, is competition. But I don't find that competition creates an atmosphere of harmony. How do you look at that aspect of competition in the workplace, and what would you do in replace of that?
Before I jump into that, another aspect which is of spirituality, which becomes very practical. These are the teachings from the different Murlis, and also the seniors like the Dadis. In Brahma Kumaris, we have this aspect of sweet words, like speak sweetly, speak softly, and speak less.
Oh, there you go. Okay, that does it very well. That, in a way, that answers the second question as well.
So that when I'm in that, so this 1 minute meditation before I go for the meetings is becoming very important for me.
Okay, that's another point, that what we want is stability. Not only do we want it, that others want that also. And it's very challenging when there's when the events that happen are not stable. So finding that what you want is stability, and the action that you do in order to get it is to have a 1 minute meditation prior to the event. So thanks a lot for that. A couple people asked me to ask you some questions, because they're interested in this too. How do I get away from clock watching?
From clock?
Like, yeah, they're eager to finish what they're doing because they're not liking the experience of where they are. How do you avoid any type of sense of distaste for the workplace?
I don't think I am understanding the question enough.
Well, you get off. People get off at a certain time. Their job is finished at, say, 5 o'clock, and they're looking at the clock at 3:30, and then 3:45, and then 4, just waiting for that moment to get there when they don't have to be there. So, what would you say to someone who's has this experience or feeling?
So this is like you're talking about getting bored and you are kind of stuck to the work, you cannot leave before 5 and you don't have much to do and something of that nature, right? See,
Yes.
A spiritual being, once we come into spirituality, there cannot be boredom. Boredom is a misnomer. If once you have, now, if you don't have something really to do and you have to spend some time, I would absolutely welcome it. We have so many Murlis, and now Baba Milan is starting, so we'll have 2 Avyak Murlis. So much to churn. So no, I don't feel that way at all. As a matter of fact, I look forward to those gaps. Those are times for me to reconnect and do some churning.
Very good. Next question. Fault finding. Oftentimes I can see a situation and I'm thinking that it would work if someone did this and they're not doing that. How do you address an issue without fault finding or blame?
So this is others finding fault in me or me?
No, you finding fault. Well, I would imagine that it's easier for you to deal with being blamed than not blaming.
So, I mean, this goes back to some of the basics. For instance, that when I am in the moment I am in the mode of blaming, who is blaming whom? So it becomes very clear that I have moved away from our basic identity. So whenever those feelings come, at least at this stage in my life, I've been able to immediately put a full stop and reset myself, because I understand very well that once those feelings of blame comes in, that means Ravan is having a very strong grip over me.
So there's kind of, so what it appears to me is that you've been able to slow down and stop this dialogue that's in the mind of the thoughts wandering to reach out and find the reason for my discomfort being on the outside. So again, if someone's like you in the workplace, I find that person kind of like a little, an oasis, to be an oasis in the workplace, especially if it's, there's some instability going on.
But you will see something, Craig, very funny that will happen is, you might find it like an oasis, but you will, if you can really practice that, you will be attracting that energy. In other words, you will find yourself pulled into teams where there is more harmony. This had been my experience, absolutely. And
interesting.
Yes, and you will always get pulled into those sort of teams and those environments, because it's almost like it's a natural tendency of the drama also to cooperate. When you're operating from that inner state, it is as if the duty of nature to align with those harmonious energy, and you will experience, it's actually fun to do it. And that has been my experience.
I think that you've reached another thing there, that it's actually fun, because we want to do something that's fun rather than something that's labor.
Right.
So that's a really good method. And I have one other question that was given to me, workplace, and ever since the COVID and people are working more remotely, what about the work at home people? Their environment, somehow it seems like a benefit. In other ways, it seems like a more difficult situation because they can't be motivated as well. How do you maintain this in a remote setting?
Yeah, so in this remote setting, the aspect of creating environment through thoughts has become even more potent now, because not only is remote setting, many people will not even open their video. So I do not even have the option of checking their body language. So, so it's almost like you are almost, what should I say, have no other ways to really understand whether the communication is being decoded properly, whether they're understanding you properly. And many people, especially the job that I do, I have to do a lot of elicitation. Means I have to get responses from people. And it becomes a pretty difficult task if people do not want to share.
So what qualities have you engendered to help you to be successful in that?
So first is, I really need to, there are a couple of things. One is not only one is communication through your thoughts, have those great vibrations. That is definitely needed. The other thing is about listening. There is very important art of really understanding what is active listening and also passive listening. And there is a third element, spiritual listening. And these things really got accentuated as almost like, not like good things to have. It's almost like I absolutely need to do in a remote setting where we have people who will not open their videos and where we have people who don't want to talk. And to break it up, active listening essentially meaning to listen intensely and also to kind of get back to them that this is what I'm hearing from you, is this right? So it is almost like tuning in at a little bit of a physical level. Passive listening is really going in to listen to them as they are. Complete acceptance. It is like, something we use the term bearing witness. Like I'm being a detached observer. I'm bearing witness to you. I want to listen to you. I'm almost giving you permission to tell your story. And then is that aspect of spiritual listening, when I'm really, really listening to the other soul very deeply with the honest intention that this soul also it's gone through its travel. The soul also has gone through a process where it got burnt, hurt, damaged, and it is in that state, but its original state was that of who we all were in the beginning of the journey. And that is another aspect that you can, put into practice. And because when you have that vision, as if the inner beauty unlocks.
I think you really hit on the essence of it, that was another theme that we had. I think I did with people, the art of listening, and maybe 4 or 5 different times with different people, because it is such a deep subject and you've really described very well what it is. And I'm sure that in this time of COVID, and maybe I'm guessing that as an engineer and an MBA, active listening was not part of your training. It's learning. And so I'm sure that these skills have come to you, and especially since the remote workplace has come in, that you've had to become more assertive even at being an assertive listener, and so that you have to reach out and touch someone in a passive way so that they feel heard. And that's what we really want, when they feel heard. Okay, I'm sure we've gone over our time. Anything else you'd like to say to top it off?
No, I just wanted to thank you all for this wonderful opportunity, and
thank you for coming. What you're sharing is really good, and I'm sure people will find benefit of it. We normally close with like you said, you like to start with a minute meditation before a meeting. So let's close. Why don't we have like a 2 or 3 minute mini meditation? And if you would offer a commentary for us so that those can help them carry along on a train of thought based on today's. Would that be okay with you?
Perfect.
All right.
Sitting quietly, I detach myself from all distractions and connect with that point of eternal existence, the real being, the true being, the real self, the being of consciousness, the spiritual life force at the center of the forehead that is animating this body with beautiful vibrations of its true nature, of love, generosity, harmony. And those vibrations spread into an environment, creating an environment of love, acceptance, an environment where we all souls thrive, where we all souls are free, where we all souls are heard, where we all souls can solve problems, where we all souls can exhibit our highest creativity. Let's hold this awareness of our true nature, and we come into words and actions in that awareness and create spiritual enthusiasm in the workplace, our place for spiritual service. Om Shanti. Thank you, brother.
Om Shanti. Thank you so much. I not only took part, but I enjoyed myself. It's nice to get to know you better. And we'll be seeing each other more. Welcome to the family. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mita. Thanks for all.
Thank you, Mita.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Bye.